All right, so for this video series, I wanted to spend some time talking about wellness, but specifically for college students and what we are kind of experiencing in this time in life as we attend college, and how do we best support that in all the different dimensions of wellness. So to support that conversation, I brought Katie Jordan. She's the Assistant Director of Health and Promotions and Prevention at Grand Valley. So thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So when we talk about wellness, what are we talking about here, and are there more than one way to define weird sentence? Is there more than one way to define wellness?
Yeah. So at Grand Valley, we use the 8 dimensions of wellness to kind of define well-being for us. And really, when you think about it, it's an optimal and dynamic state of finding our full potential. And so I think that's a really great kind of analogy for college students, right? In the space and time that they're in, it's all new. They're experiencing something new, totally different from what they've been doing. And most of the time, it's on their own for the first time. And so the 8 dimensions of wellness is a really holistic way of looking at us as whole people, knowing that we experience and are like doing different things in our lives while also being college students. And utilizing that gives us a more full perspective when we think about where we're moving in the future and being able to make healthy choices moving forward.
Yeah, because I mean, as we're moving forward is like the whole point of college, right? Like it's like I'm here to learn the things that I'm going to use in my career and in my life. And so understanding how do I support myself in my life moving forward forever, and also having good wellness, making that life last longer. Looking at the 8 dimensions, is it that all dimensions have to be firing at optimal levels at all times, or is this like we lean into one area and then another depending on what's going on in our life?
Yeah, so that's the really great thing about the 8 dimensions of wellness and the wellness wheel is that it's dynamic, right? No day is going to look the same for everybody, and no wheel is going to look the same for everybody. So there are some days that you're going to be doing pretty well in all of them, and other days, some of them are probably not going to be doing so great. And so it's really knowing like what are the spaces that are going to be good for you and where you can kind of lean into when you're needing a little bit more well-being feeling. Some of those times where you're going to need to like focus on some areas a little bit more that are struggling. And so, it's never going to be, for the most part, ever full, because we just don't have that capacity as humans. And so that's the cool part, that it's all kind of interconnected.
Yeah, and as we'll talk about in future videos, the different dimensions individually. Yeah. But I like that you mentioned that it's all interconnected. So if you have balance in different areas, it will help support areas that you're maybe having struggle with. Because I think that's also one of those things, as you mentioned, was looking at areas that you can lean into when you're in high stress place. Because I know I've done this, where it's like, I'm so stressed right now, I don't have time to sleep the amount I want to sleep or exercise the amount I want to exercise. But then I find that I'm less productive. So if anything, this is a conversation about how do we become more productive by making sure that we're taking care of ourselves holistically, as you said, versus just like zoning in on one area of the wheel. Say maybe if you're being a student right now, it's like focusing really heavily into that intellectual area and ignoring all the others. You're not going to be as optimal even in that intellectual end of the wheel.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're definitely interconnected.
As far as the 8 dimensions that we're going to be talking about, would you quickly list where we're going?
Yeah. So we'll be talking about intellectual wellness, emotional, spiritual, social, occupational, financial, physical, and environmental.
I didn't even have to slide you notes. I knew you knew that. I was just like, I didn't know if you remembered the order we were going to talk about it. So that was impressive. Yeah. I like it. So that's the goal of this series. Essentially, I want to dive into all of these things and provide a lot of advice. But I think big picture, what would you say is your top piece of advice if you're telling us a first-year freshman college student, hey, if you want to be successful, do this?
Yeah. I would say just acknowledge that there are lots of pieces to who you are. And so when you're feeling unwell, it might be different components of that, right? And so focusing in on a lot of the different areas and not just focusing on one is going to really help you be successful, because we are whole people. And so that holistic approach helps us to navigate a little bit better.
Yeah. And acknowledging that you're not the only one either,
Yeah.
right? Like, we're all humans and we're all trying to figure that out and how to balance all of it. And especially for first-time freshmen, it can feel very overwhelming as they're trying to figure that out. So knowing that they're not the only ones going through it, I think, is also really helpful.
For sure.
So I think that would be my advice. I was like, if I put you on the spot of giving advice, I think
Yeah.
I got to give one too, right? All right. Well, thank you for coming in to have this conversation. And I'm excited to dive into each of the 8 dimensions.
Yeah. Let's do it.